Insomniac Games. Of course, they have developed many PlayStation IP throughout the years, including the Spyro trilogy, Ratchet and Clank, Resistance, as well as, of course, the big commercial hit Spider-Man PS4 last year. So they are no joke and are no stranger to PlayStation. And of course, you all know the good news. I'm sure you guys heard it this week. I even found out about this news and it really broke during the Gamescom opening live event.
Breaking news.
What we got?
Insomniac Games is joining PlayStation's worldwide studios.
Get the f out! Get the f out! You're lying. You're lying. You're lying.
Before I retweeted it.
Bro! No way! Get the f out.
Spider-Man games for the next 15 years.
Get the f out. Yo! Let's go! Oh shit!
Congratulations again, Celia. I know I am not alone.
It's lit! Yo, you love to see it. And so, of course, it was a great moment to experience live and everything. And of course, you already know, if you read the title, if you know or in the know on the news, that didn't make any sense. But if you guys know gaming news, you all are very much well aware that, of course, Sony has purchased Insomniac Games, making them a part of the PlayStation first party family. So without further ado, what's going on, guys? It is your boy TKD100D here, back again with another video here on PlayStation Source, and I want to explore what this could possibly mean in terms of the future of Insomniac Games. So I guess the easy stuff and the most, like, of course, obvious stuff we'll get out of the way first, and then we'll go into the more speculative stuff here at the later end of the video. But of course here, as big as the game Spider-Man PS4 was, you have to obviously be under the impression that of course we will get a sequel to the Spider-Man PS4 game, as well as of course the story being left off at a pretty big cliffhanger, and really really an even bigger cliffhanger at the end of the DLC, where we even see little murmurs of, I'm not going to spoil the actual spoiler in case you guys want to go and play if you haven't, if you're watching this video, but they are clearly setting up a definite nice sequel for Spider-Man PS4, and of course that is in the works, and it's more indicated as well because they even were tweeting towards the end of last year, beginning of this year, that they were early drafting and already scripting on the next sequel to the game. And so it looks like they are definitely ramping up production for this, and definitely they're going to focus on the future of Spider-Man PS4, and definitely going to helm it as one of probably their biggest IPs. And I am of the belief, obviously, that this may have been their biggest game. I could be wrong on that point, but that's just an assumption that I'm going to make here on the recording. I'm pretty sure it's their biggest game they have ever made, and on top of that, it is one of the highest selling Spider-Man games nonetheless, as well as one of the highest selling PlayStation 4 games as well. And so with this news of Sony buying Insomniac Games, they also were kind of being a little show-offy, a little, hey, look what this studio did for PlayStation. They came out and announced that the game Spider-Man PS4, well, it's not called that, it's called Marvel Spider-Man, of course, on the PS4, has sold a whopping 13.2 million copies to date, and that is, I believe, as of July 22nd or something like that. I'm gonna say July 2019 to be safe, but it was definitely in July 2019 is when is the cutoff date. And so it is obvious here that they are definitely happy with, of course, the sales figures and stuff like that, and it's been a really big commercial hit. And on top of that, there was even a little rumor about a Game of the Year edition being released later on this year for the PS4, and so expect to have even more sales based off that Game of the Year edition for those that have not bought it yet. If this leaked Amazon UK listing that was up for a brief moment and then was taken down quickly is led to be proven as fact, it looks like we will be getting a Game of the Year edition on September 4, 2019, which will also include the DLC 3 episodic DLC bundle called The City That Never Sleeps, which for the record, we did a full entire playthrough and DLC playthrough on the channel here on PlayStation Source. Make sure to go check out that playlist down below, or not, probably down below. You know what? I'm gonna try and link it down below for you guys because I love y'all, you know what I'm saying? But if it's not down there, it's on the channel. You can go search it up. We did playthroughs of those, of the base game, as well as, of course, the DLC. So make sure to go check out that down in the channel. But that obviously is lending more to likely more sales of the game. And so overall, it is clear as day that PlayStation really does see Marvel Spider-Man as a huge success and really as one of the key mark titles going into next generation. But of course, another game that they developed, of course, back in 2016 was Ratchet and Clank. And so there was actually some things that Sean Layden has said in the Hollywood Reporter. And before I say that, mainly is that, why I'm talking about Ratchet and Clank in this video is that it's being rumored that they are developing the sequel to Ratchet and Clank 2016 at their satellite studio in North Carolina. So they have a satellite studio with a whole different development team. They're still Insomniac Games, but just a different studio across the country, and it looks like they are developing Ratchet and Clank at that specific satellite studio. But we had some more backing of this with Sean Layden talking to Hollywood Reporter and had this little quote to say about the future of Insomniac Games. So they say, quote, "We like what they've been doing in the Spider-Man franchise, and things like Ratchet and Clank are certainly vital series in the present and future. That's what we're concentrating on." And honestly, I think that it's a very good mix to have Spider-Man PS4 or, the, of course, sequel of Spider-Man being developed as well as a sequel to Ratchet and Clank, because it was a great game. It probably didn't sell a ton. It probably, wasn't that big of a success, and it was marked down at a great price at $40. So that might have turned people away from the optics of looking at it, as obviously it wasn't a $60, price tag. But I thought it was a great game, and overall was just really well just refined, and really calls back to the old type of game that Ratchet and Clank used to be and stuff like that. And I thought it was a very great title, and I think it's a very good decision to keep it going as well as the Spider-Man franchise in the future. But he was also adamant on other things with Insomniac Games, as well as them branching out and doing new things with their studio and having new ideas, etc. And so Sean Layden also said in the same interview, quote, "If they have ideas around new game concepts, which every team does, we will look forward with great anticipation to what the future brings." And that's really the big question about all this. Now, of course, it was inevitable, I feel like, where Insomniac was going to be purchased by Sony at some point. I thought they would announce it at PSX or, during the PlayStation meeting that might be rumored to be happening that reveals the PS5 console, something around those lines. But it was very interesting to see it happen right now during Gamescom and during the live Gamescom opening live event and stuff like that. But I guess that is the biggest question here, is that, while I felt that the PlayStation acquisition of Insomniac Games was pretty much imminent, what is going to come from that? You know what I'm saying? Like, we have, of course, Sean Layden's quotes here, which definitely to me indicate that there is some sort of a trust that is maybe analogous or very similar to Naughty Dog's trust with PlayStation, where it seems like Naughty Dog can literally do pretty much anything and PlayStation would just be like, all right, cool, you're good. And it seems like the way Sean Layden was talking here, obviously, he is fronting because, of course, this is a Hollywood Reporter article and he was being interviewed on the future of PlayStation, so of course he'd be a little more positive about everything. But it seems very noteworthy that he was very much like, Insomniac Games is a very good developer for us and stuff like that. He was very much on the up and up, saying like great anticipation for what they would do moving forward in terms of new ideas and stuff like that. But it seems like there may be some other things in the future that could come if we just kind of dig in and see what we could possibly get on the table here. And so one of them being Sunset Overdrive on PS4. That's a big question that a lot of people have. Now, I have heard and seen that Sunset Overdrive, at least the console licensing, belongs to Xbox and to Microsoft, so it looks like Sunset Overdrive may never see the light of day on PS4, but that doesn't hold back a sequel being made to Sunset Overdrive, with of course them now technically owning Sunset Overdrive, which is a Xbox exclusive that Sony owns. It's very interesting here, but we could possibly see a sequel to Sunset Overdrive, which I never played Sunset Overdrive. It looks really fun. I really do want to play at some point, and I would like to see the original event inevitably come to PlayStation consoles. I would love that. But with all that being said, Push Square kind of ended their cap on the reporting of this news of course Insomniac Games being bought by PlayStation with a very cool soapbox article that details them wanting the remastering of the Resistance trilogy. Of course, Resistance, if you're not aware, it's a FPS game about during the 1900s if aliens came down to Russia and started I guess turning civilians into aliens of their own being, and then essentially a alien alien invasion during the 1900s, which sounds very, very cool in itself. I have only played, oddly enough, the mobile Resistance game. So that is, of course, Resistance Retribution, which I loved on the PSP, and Resistance Burning Skies, which was on the Vita. I thought it was pretty okay, but I loved Resistance Retribution so much. And like, oddly enough, that wasn't developed by Insomniac. I think that was developed by some other very prominent, I think it was Sony Bend. I think Sony Bend developed Retribution. I could be wrong on that. I'm gonna go look it up because I know that one was developed by someone else, and maybe Burning Skies was too, but nonetheless, I loved those Resistance games, but never got to play the trilogy. And so right now, you can only play Resistance 3 on PS Now, which is cool, but I do wish that I could play the other Resistance games, and it definitely bodes itself to a remaster at some point, and I think it could be really, really cool, you know, for the series overall. But what could be even more cooler is that they take it a step further and make a new Resistance game being the next premier FPS for PlayStation. Now think about it, okay? We do have other shooters being rumored to be developed for next gen, including a SOCOM game, as well as a Guerrilla developed shooter game that may be a first person or maybe third person, etc. But it is nonetheless a shooter. But why not bring back the world of Resistance? I mean, think about it, right? Like an alien invasion taking place during the 1900s. What if we have a sequel series with new characters, but the same world in the 2000s era? Like, what does that look like? You know what I'm saying? And I think that Insomniac could do a very, very good job at making a first-person shooter that is narrative focused in that world. While we do have plenty of other narrative games in the PlayStation first-party window, of course, but you know, we always have the predictable, you know, I'm not going to call it template as some people might say, but generally speaking, a lot of the first-party offerings in PlayStation are third-person action games, whether you're shooting, whether you're fighting hand-to-hand combat, whether you have really cool powers and stuff like that, but overall, they are third-person action games at their core. But we could have a first-person shooter narrative-focused game developed by Insomniac with the Resistance world explored and expanded on in a new Resistance game for the PlayStation 5. So that's what I think, and that's what I would really hope for in the future of Insomniac games. But there's also talk about them, I didn't even know this, you know, before even researching this, but they also have a lot of skills in VR, which I didn't even expect that to be a thing that they can do. But they are one of the few PlayStation development teams now that have an expertise to a degree in virtual reality development, as we have London Studio being the other one. Of course, they made Blood and Truth recently and stuff like that, so looks like, you know, maybe they could be utilized to bolster PSVR 2 in a way. But I definitely do, if I were at the helm, I would want them to bring back Resistance, maybe first remaster them, you know, maybe you have help from Bluepoint or another studio and stuff like that. Maybe remaster the old Resistance games, maybe gauge the overall reception and gauge the overall kind of demand for a new Resistance game, and if it's there, I say take it. So that is what I kind of see and expect from Insomniac games in the future. Of course, the obvious Spider-Man sequel and Ratchet and Clank sequel from the Marvel Spider-Man, as well as Ratchet and Clank 2016 respectively, as well as maybe the potentiality of a Sunset Overdrive release on PS4, but if not, maybe a new one down the line, as well as I would like to see Resistance remasters, as well as, of course, a new Resistance for next gen. And that's all I gotta say on the topic, but most importantly, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. What do you guys think about the Insomniac games acquisition? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and make sure also while you are down there to check out the description where you can find our Twitter, our Discord, as well as our Anchor link where you can listen to our long form content in podcast format, that including, of course, the Cross Circle podcast, as well as the Road to Part 2 series that covers Last of Us and Last of Us Part 2 news, theories, ideas, and stuff like that. So make sure to go check out that link down below if you're interested in hearing my voice, or of course Christian's voice and the Stark's voice in a podcast format. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like on it, as well as stay subscribed to PlayStation Source to keep up with the latest and greatest in PlayStation. Thank you for watching, and as always, greatness awaits.